Welcome back to my channel. I am Rebekah Manella and this is Anxious to Abundant. Today we are going to be talking about 3 of my tips for when you are dealing with an anxiety attack or a panic attack when you're all alone. As we all know, anxiety sucks and panic sucks. They're incredibly terrifying, but something that's even more terrifying than just experiencing a panic event or an anxiety event is when you experience it alone and you feel trapped and like it's the end. Before I get into my tips, I just want to say a quick disclaimer here. I am not a medical professional. This channel and this video is in no way supposed to take the place of you going and getting the help that you actually need from a professional. They're professionals and they're actually there, and I've gone to therapy, I've gone to my doctor, and it's helped so much. And these tips have kind of derived from that. So I highly suggest you go get the help you need and not use this to diagnose yourself or use it in place of what your team has told you. So if you're anything like me, you have dealt with some anxiety and panic in the past. And anxiety and panic suck really, really much. I'm trying not to swear, but they suck incredibly. It sucks even more when you're alone. Before we really get into this, let's break this down a little bit. There's actually a difference between an anxiety attack and a panic attack. Anxiety is something that is just kind of like always there, always nagging, and it kind of has these like waves that it comes in. At least for me, it could be different for you, but this is just how I experience it. Anxiety comes in waves, and it always feels like those waves start really, really small, just kind of nagging at the back of my mind. And then they grow, and all of a sudden the wave just crashes over me and my heart races really fast. I get sweaty, I get antsy, my thought loops just start going. But it's a very long, drawn out process. And the difference between anxiety and panic is that you can kind of sense when an anxiety attack is coming because you're prepared for it. Not prepared, but you know what's about to happen. You just kind of have you just feel it. You feel me? Anyways, a panic attack, on the other hand, whereas the sensations and the symptoms, I don't like saying symptoms, but the sensations and the way that it presents in your body is very much the same. It literally comes out of nowhere. You could be having the best day of your life and bam, your heart's racing, you're sweaty, you feel like you're gonna pass out. That's the difference between anxiety and panic. And on this channel, we use them in those ways. Anxiety is different from panic, even though technically they present the same way in your body. But these tips actually work for both. When it comes to anxiety, I highly suggest using them earlier on when you feel anxiety rising rather than waiting until that wave hits you. But it also works after the initial pangs of panic hit you. And it's actually kind of cool when you realize that these tips work in the midst of a panic attack and your brain actually does that thing where it's still freaking out, but it's also realizing like, oh, I'm actually in control. So it's a magical moment, as crappy as it is. So, tip 1, grounding. So what is grounding? Grounding is utilizing all of your senses to bring you to the moment that you are in. And it's seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, feeling, just either one or all of them. And you can utilize all these senses in different ways. Grounding is a very interesting practice, and I actually would suggest that you try different things while you're not in an anxious state, just to figure out how your body feels and reacts to different stimuli, different sensations, and kind of where your brain goes to as you start discovering different ways of making different parts of your body come alive. So when one of these attacks hit, typically, for me at least, I'm very stuck in my head and very internal in my body. I feel everything going on, my muscles tense, and it can really hurt sometimes. So one of my favorite ways to actually combat this is by getting ice or a frozen bag of vegetables or fruits and just placing it on different parts of my body. Some of my favorite parts to stick it on is on my chest, especially when my heart is racing and it feels like it's not going to slow down, which I promise it will slow down, it will calm down. Your heart loves you. Anyways, so stick it on your chest and just I highly suggest you don't stick it over your clothes, like literally stick it on your skin. It's uncomfortable, but it will actually start pulling your brain back into reality. And it'll kind of give you this sense of obviously calm, but it literally like helps slow your heart down. I don't really know the science behind it, but it actually really, really helps. Another place for me is sticking it at the bottom of my feet. I've never actually tried sticking my feet in an ice bucket before, but maybe this winter I will, if I have another attack, I will definitely go out in the snow and just stick my feet in the snow, and I will let you know what happens. But yeah, sticking something cold at the bottom of my feet, rubbing my hands with something really, really cold. I know that there are some people who suggest jumping in a really cold shower. I tried that. It wasn't really for me. I wasn't able to bring my breathing under control, and it just kind of freaked me out a little bit more. But that's not to say it won't work for you. Try jumping in a cold shower. Also, if you have a pool, you are set. Go jump in the pool. It totally helps. Like jumping in a pool while you're having an anxiety event, a panic attack, there's just something about water that calms the system. I know other people who put ice on their wrists, which really, really helps them. Other places are ears, temples, the back of your neck is another really, really great place. Just find where on your body that it works for you. And like this actually works while you're not in an anxious state. You will realize where it actually, as weird as this sounds, where the ice feels good. So when you find a place that feels good with the ice, and when you're in a panic state, just put it there, and it like your brain has this association where it's just like, okay, this is helping, and it will help calm you down. Really makes the energy and the emotions shift. And so many times when I've done this, I have actually started bawling, which is good because, you know, anxiety and panic are just emotions trapped in the body trying to find their way out. So it's a really, really helpful way to move that energy around and just help you feel a little bit more calm and grounded. Another way of feeling grounded is just noticing your feet on the ground. Ideally, if you can go outside and walk on some grass or, you know, put your feet in some sand, just focus on your feet and where they are and how it feels. And just, you know, put a lot of energy into that. You know, stick your hands into the dirt, into the sand around you if you're in the sand. It's summer right now, so I'm just imagining being at the beach. But just, you know, feel the world around you. Fuzzy blankets. Another great way to ground is if you can actually like cuddle pets if you have any. Pay attention to what you're feeling and just sensing with your hand. Do you have a favorite scent that just makes you feel good or makes you just feel alive? So for example, peppermint for a lot of people works while they're experiencing anxiety or panic. You can just smell the peppermint and it does something in your brain that just brings you back into the moment because it's something outside of you, even though you're experiencing it internally. It's kind of a weird dichotomy. Another really good grounding technique is sound. Come up with a playlist of either music or sounds that just really help you feel something inside. Ideally, you're going to come up with this list when you are not in a state of anxiety. I have a playlist that I call Power Up, and I listen to it especially when I'm feeling depressed, because I put all the music in it that just makes me feel like really powerful and excited and like I can conquer the world. So if I'm feeling down, I'm going to listen to that playlist, and it just brings me into the moment, realizing that, you know what, my thoughts are feeding the way that I'm feeling, and I can actually shift that just with what I'm listening to. Sometimes it's listening to a playlist of the ocean or the forest. If you live in a location where you can actually go outside and just hear sounds that bring you peace, like that is so beautiful and so ideal. I grew up in the middle of a forest, and even now, like sometimes when I am anxious, I just kind of put myself back there and just remember what that felt like. So that is the sense of hearing. When it comes to using your eyes, I understand this one can be very, very difficult for a lot of people, because anxiety can kind of mess with the way that you perceive the world, especially when you're feeling depersonalized or dissociated. So with your eyes, it can feel a little bit more scary, but it's literally focus. Focus on one thing and just see what you realize about it. One thing that I love to use is a candle. And a candle is actually cool because you get to use two senses at once. One thing I love about the candle is just the flickering fire. And, you know, how does that look? How does that make my brain feel? You know, sitting and focusing on something, be it, you know, the flickering of the fire on your candle, or, you know, maybe even read a book or stare at a painting, just something that is relatively still but real that you can just look at. So another sense that you can engage is your sense of taste. I understand that when you are going through anxiety or panic, we do not want to put anything in our mouths, and the last thing we want to do is eat. But there are some things that you can do that will actually, yet again, engage your brain in a different way that is not focused on what is going on in other parts of your body. Put something in your mouth that actually has a very intense flavor. I wouldn't suggest hot sauce unless you love hot sauce, but things like, you know, putting a super sour candy in your mouth, a lemon, mints. Mints are really good. Because they just kind of like, not only do you taste it, but it also kind of like gives your mouth a different feeling. And then when you put that stuff in your mouth, like just take a moment to experience what is going on because of what you put in your mouth. And it's really cool because like you will sense the shift between what's going on in the rest of your body to what's going on in your mouth. One thing that I actually really love doing is drinking some kind of sparkling water. And it's a really cool tool for me because it engages a little bit more than just taste. I prefer unflavored sparkling water, but I find that it engages so many senses. Sound, sight, just even the way that it feels in your mouth. You know, you can hear the bubbles, you can feel the bubbles in your mouth. And it's just kind of like it gives you a whole different sense and feeling of the world, as weird as that sounds, than just drinking water or cold water. Or, you know, not all of us can, like I said, put food in our mouth during this time. So sparkling water is a huge, huge help. And just, you know, take a sip of it, let it sit in your mouth. How does it feel? You know, just focus in on the thing that is in control, that you are in control of at that moment, which is putting the candy in your mouth, drinking the sparkling water. Just focus on the other things and everything will shift. So tip number 2 is meditate. I know it's the last thing you want to do while you are going through a panic attack. You literally just want to run out of your skin. But honestly, meditating during this time is one of the most beautiful things that I've ever experienced. It makes your panic attack last way, way shorter. And it really engages just different parts of your brain and actually helps your body to calm down. You can find so many different meditations all over the internet, different social media platforms. I actually have a few that I have made specifically for anxiety and panic. Link to the playlist is right here. I really hope that maybe those can give you some help. Meditating is a really, really amazing tool when it comes to anxiety and panic. And my last tip might not be a favorite, was not a favorite of mine, but once I actually started practicing it, I have noticed a huge decrease in my day-to-day anxiety, and it's really lessened my panic attacks. I know you're not going to want to hear this, but sit with it. Don't run away from it. Literally, when you feel it coming on, just say, hey, let's do this. Because anxiety cannot hurt you. Panic cannot hurt you. It is literally just your body trying to keep you safe. And the more that we can work through learning that we are safe in those moments and not being afraid of what is happening to us, the less scary those moments are. And honestly, the first few times that I actually practiced this, it was terrifying. Because you literally, like when you're going through anxiety and panic, you want to crawl out of your skin. But this causes you to sit and just experience. And once you actually experience what's going on and you're able to call out what your body's doing, it calms you and it pulls you out of panic and anxiety so fast. And for me, in the past, anxiety attacks or panic attacks have literally put me out for a whole day, maybe even a few days. And since practicing sitting with the uncomfortable feelings and just letting that wave go over me, honestly, I let the panic attack happen and usually take a nap, and then I am good to go for the rest of the day, and I'm not even focused on what could potentially happen again. It seems so backwards, but I promise you, this is the thing that really, really works, at least for me. It might be different for you, but this is something that really worked for me. I have been so against even trying it for the longest time, but like I said, once I started practicing just letting the feelings happen and just accepting them and being okay and breathing through it, like all the attacks have been shorter and I move through them so much quicker. And typically at the end, I will actually just be able to like sit with myself, be like, wow, like you did that. You're a freaking badass. Like, it's amazing. I'll usually call my husband after that and brag about the fact that I went through an anxiety attack all by myself and actually feel proud of myself. So another part of this that I find really, really works is sensory deprivation. So I will close all of my curtains. I will make the room as quiet as I possibly can. Typically I will turn a fan on just because I find that like if I cool down my body or even just like kind of have white noise in the background, it kind of like helps me settle into my body and experience what's going on. But literally, close your eyes, wear a sleep mask if you need to, but make the room as dark as you possibly can and just focus just on what's happening in your body. It's scary, but the less sensory overload that you get from the outside will actually help the sensory overload on the inside just pass through and calm down way, way quicker. This leads me into a bonus tip for you. Have a friend on speed dial. Somebody who, they don't have to get it. They don't have to go through this kind of thing as well, but just somebody who is there willing to listen to you. For me, that person is my husband. He's never experienced a panic attack, has never experienced an anxiety attack, but he's there to listen. And there have been times where he is not available to come home and help me feel safe. But just the fact that he's there to listen and talk to me, it really, really helps. Sometimes he'll actually ask me questions that we have agreed upon in the past. He will ask me what I'm grateful for. And he will not let me start talking about how I am feeling physically up until I say, 10 things that I'm grateful for. Or he'll ask me about just something else in my day. He will ask me grounding questions. It's really cool to be able to have somebody that you can talk to. And I understand that not everybody has that. But there are apps out there, and there are different health and anxiety resources that you can find online. There are Facebook groups that are there to, just be a listening ear. You don't have to go through this alone. And trust me, it sucks. Anxiety and panic suck so much. And I wish that nobody ever had to deal with it. But, for some of us, that's where we are on our journey right now. And the more we learn to just accept that, and accept that it is actually a perfectly okay part of ourselves, we can start working with it and moving through it. And one thing that I really hope you get from this video is that you are safe. If you have to experience an anxiety attack or a panic attack and you're alone, you are just as safe as if your safe person's with you. If you're experiencing anxiety or panic in a place where it's not your safe space, you are just as safe. And, it is going to be okay. You are going to learn through this. I know it sucks and it doesn't feel like it, but I promise you will. I have. And, this is a crazy, crazy thing that I never thought I would say, but having anxiety is probably one of the most beautiful gifts that I have ever been given in life, because I see the world differently. And, every single time I get through an attack, I feel stronger and more focused and even more safe. And I know that you can get there too. So comment below, let me know what you got from this video. Subscribe, share this with somebody who you know that is going through anxiety or panic or whatever it is. If you're having a really rough day, feel free to send me a DM on any of my social media platforms. All of it's in the description below. You got this. You are so strong. And I'm really excited for you to realize that about yourself. So I'll see you next week. Bye.